The parallel park, probably the reversing maneuver that's on the driving test that freaks the most people out. There are only two things that the examiner is going to be looking at on the parallel park. Number one, can you control the car, and are you safe? And if you look at the examiner's marking sheet, and I'll show you, there are only two lines of boxes they can tick. So when it comes to the parallel park, don't overthink it. First of all, can you control the car? Can you get the maneuver done? And while you're getting the maneuver done, can you get it done safely? Balancing these two things of the observation with the actual maneuver is not easy, and it takes a little bit of practice. However, when I say it's not easy, it's not as bad as you think. The first thing that I need to do when I'm doing any kind of reversing is I need to keep the speed of the car really low. So if I'm driving a manual car, that's going to be a lot of clutch control. If I'm driving an auto, I'm just going to have to be very, very gentle on the gas and using the brake as and when I need it. So I'm going to move off into position, and the first positioning I'm going to take up is approximately half a meter, a maximum a meter from the car here. My wing mirror is going to line up with approximately the back end of the vehicle there. I'm going to stick it in reverse, and I do my reverse POM routine, so I'm looking all the way around my car. I'm going to start off by looking towards the rear window as I'm reversing. Now, I didn't see anything around my car there, so I'm going to have another little double check just to make sure, looking towards that rear window. Now, the first reference point I'm going to use is my wing mirror will line up approximately with the middle of the vehicle here. When I get to that point, I'm going to lock the steering wheel to the left. I'm going to look over my shoulder to make sure there's nothing coming and up and down the road. I'm going to swing out to approximately 30 odd degrees from this car. So there are some reference points that I'm using. Approximately 30 degrees like that. When I get to that, and that's going to look something like that, I'm going to straighten the wheels of the car so the wheels are now nice and straight. I'm going to look to that rear window a little bit because I should be doing that to satisfy the examiner that I need to look to the rear window. And as I'm coming back, I'm going to err on the side of caution. Now, I've not set that wing mirror up for me. I've actually set that up for the camera. So I actually have no wing mirror on the left here. So I'm not going to take a risk. Now, I'm going to start turning it in from there. So I lock my wheel to the right. As I'm coming round, I can now see that I'm going to be a little bit wide. I can see by the angle that I'm taking, I'm going to be wide. So before I use the entire angle, I'm going to straighten the wheels up. I'm going to come back a tiny little bit more.
If I start to correct before I straighten up, I can use the angle that I already have rather than creating one. You don't have to, but it's just a lot more efficient.
Or not lock it, turn it to the right. Now I'm nice and straight here. I need to make sure that it's nice and clear around my car. I'm look a little bit towards that rear window. And I come to a stop. And that is approximately within 2 car lengths of space from the vehicle in front. You're allowed to use 2 car lengths of space. So that means no more than 1 space between the two of you. A car shouldn't be able to park in between you and the car that you are parking on. Now that was made a little bit harder for me because I have no left wing mirror. I've set that camera up so that the camera can see the wing mirror, but I can't. I'll switch my engine off here. As you can see, I've set the camera up there, and that wing mirror, I see absolutely nothing. I'd have to bring the camera all the way around this side here, which is obviously not where my head is, to get a good view out of that wing mirror. So there's a whole bunch of reference points. Now I teach, and I did a video on this, I teach bring the wing mirrors in, but I'm not going to do that today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if there are some reference points that might be beneficial to you, because I don't really use them anymore. I got to be honest. And one of the reasons why I don't use reference points, too many reference points, I should say I do use some, is because if one of the reference points goes off, or you're slightly off on the angle, then the whole thing falls apart and you're lost and you don't know what to do. So before you get to your driving test, do try to get to a point where you're starting to understand the space rather than just reference points. Otherwise, it's going to be bugging you like crazy and you're going to be so worried about doing this maneuver. So again, I'm going to do my POM routine. I'm looking all the way around my car to make sure it's nice and safe. I don't need a signal because there's absolutely nobody here. I'm going to put myself approximately half a meter, no more than a meter or so from this car. Now, how am I doing that? Instead of looking at the car, I'm kind of looking up the street. And here I'm lining up my wing mirror with the back end of that silver car there. So I'm going to stick it in reverse. going to do my reverse palm, looking all the way around my car, so I'm satisfying the examiner on my observation, looking towards the rear window as I start reversing, looking around to make sure it's nice and safe, keeping the speed of the car really, really low. I'm going to line up my wing mirror approximately with the middle of the vehicle there. That's going to give me the extra space that I need, and I'm going to lock the wheel to the left. As I do that, I'm going to check my wing mirror and over my right shoulder and up the road to make sure there's nothing coming. I'm going to swing out to approximately 30 to 35 degree angle from the car, which should look something like that. I'm going to straighten the steering wheel, so I'm now reversing in a straight line. Looking a little bit more to that rear window, again, just to satisfy the examiner. Now, how will it look from this side here? So it's going to look something like that. That's starting to look pretty good to me. I can probably come back a tiny bit more. I'm now going to err on the side of caution, so I'm going to lock the wheel to the right. Because I've got no wing mirror here, I can't tell quite where the curb is, so I'm going to use my judgment. And as I'm coming in, that's starting to look pretty good with the vehicle in front. I'm starting to line up with it. I can use this wing mirror here to get an idea of where the line is, and I reckon I could even do a slight correction. So I'm going to go slight correction to the left, and I'm not going to take any more risk than that. I'm going to straighten the wheels up. I'm pretty much in line with this car here.
Paying attention to how you line up with the car in front is something that most people forget to do. And yet quite often it's probably the most important place to be looking.
Straighten the wheels of the car there, look to the rear window, and bring the car back. And that's probably thereabouts within 2 car lengths of space. Now, the other thing that can be quite tricky with the parallel park is the steering. People get very confused about which way to turn the steering wheel, but it's really, really simple. Left is left and right is right, and it's the same thing whether I'm going forwards or backwards. If I'm reversing backwards and I want the back of the car to go left, I turn the wheel to the left. If I want the back of the car to turn right, then I turn the wheel to the right. So right is right, left is left. And all you've got to do with the moment you stick it in reverse is think about the direction you're traveling. If I want the back of the car to go to the left, I'm going to be turning left. And you can even sort of mimic that with your body a little bit. And that should help you out. We're going to do it one more time, and this time I'm going to give you my perspective, my visual perspective. So I'm going to move out into position. About there. I'm going to stick it in reverse. Okay, so I'm looking all the way around my car, doing my reverse palm. I'm going to do a little bit of looking towards that rear window, try and twist my head around a little bit more. Now, the reference point is the wing mirror approximately with the center column there.
The only reason to come this far back is because you're allowed to use 2 car lengths of space. If you weren't afforded as much room, you would just simply turn in earlier.
And then I'm going to lock my wheel to the left. I'm going to look in my wing mirror and over my right shoulder and up the road, and I'm going to swing out to approximately 30 to 35 degrees, which will look about there. Now let's see if we can gain a reference point here. So there. So my wing mirror is kind of lined up with the sort of center part of the center column of that car. That could be a reference point. Now I'm going to start reversing backwards. There's a guy walking up behind my car, so I'm just going to stop here. This is what you should be doing as well. Having a look around, make sure there's no one coming. This guy's with a dog and he's walking really, really slowly. That's okay, he's got a little pug, I think. Okay, so rear window. Now, I'm going to start reversing, bringing the car in. The guy's here on my left, I think I'll be okay. Let's see if we can look for a reference point. Now, I think we're at the point there of turn, so I'm going to lock the wheel to the right. Now, if there had been a reference point, let me show you where that would have been there. So if I had a quarter light window, that would have been approximately there with the badge. The badge, or as it goes behind my quarter light window, I don't have a quarter light window, but what I do have is I have a column. So I'm bringing the car in now. Going to be a little bit closer. I'm just getting my nose out of the road here. Good look around my car. Can be quite close to the curb here. So now that I'm parallel and straight, I can sort of see a straight line. I'm going to straighten the wheels of my car. Got somebody walking past my car there. And then I'm going to rear window it, and I'm going to bring it up to within the 2 car lengths. And again, in my wing mirror, I can see sort of a parallel line between curb and car. Rear window it. That's about it. Come to a stop. Handbrake, neutral, and I'm done. Number 1, can I do a correction? Absolutely. You can do a few corrections if need be. Don't be so concerned it's got to be done in one go. Can I touch the curb? Yes, you can. You can kiss the curb, just don't hit the curb. If you are looking like you're going to try and drive up the curb, then that's a problem. If they ask you to do this in a place, for example, where there's a driveway, a drop curb, then you need to make sure that you treat the drop curb as if it is a regular curb. So I would even practice trying to do some parking next to a drop curb, because it could happen to you on the day of the test. If they can't find anywhere to perform this maneuver, they may do this in front of someone's driveway, in which case you better practice it, because you can go up a drop curb without even realizing it. I hope this video has been of value to you. If it has, hit the like button, subscribe if you want more content, and I will see you in the next one. Get well out.